Hey everyone, this here is my 2019 Subaru Crosstrek. I've owned this car for a little over 5 years now, and I'm going to share with you today my thoughts on it, starting with my top 5 favorite things. But before we get into that, let's get into a little bit of background with this car. Since my senior year of high school, and all through college, I've owned this car. Since then, I made a few modifications that I want to include in the background for this car. Starting with, we have some all-terrain tires that I put on at the start of 2021. These are also part of a 2-inch lift that I had to give the car a more aggressive look, as even though it was a lifted hatchback, I felt I did want to put a little bit more on so I could add some ground clearance. I also included, as you can see at the top, 2 bike racks that I used to carry mountain bikes and road bikes. In the rear of the car, I've also included a rear hitch receiver. I've used this for both carrying a bike rack and towing at times, which regrettably probably shouldn't do so in the Crosstrek. All right, now let's get into the top 5 things that I love about my Subaru Crosstrek. Starting with number 1 on things I like about my Subaru Crosstrek. With this generation, I found it was a really remarkably simple car in the layout of the interior. Let's start with, for example, as you can see here, on the actual adjustments for the climate control, they're very simple switch knobs. This is extremely refreshing when you see many different cars now that have put this into a screen setup. And I appreciate that with this car, if I'm trying to adjust my climate controls, I know exactly how to do it without having to look away from the road. You also get a very simple screen here. While not the biggest, it displays all the features I need, including Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, it has Bluetooth, it has a bunch of different apps on it. It really is a nice screen, and it has a simple dial here, and you have buttons set up. It takes everything you need with it. You also get a little bonus screen up here that displays some additional information, such as your temperature, your range for your car, time, and a really funny quirk with this car, it sound like Doug DeMuro, you get 2 buttons here, a plus and a minus, and that is how you adjust your clock, which is hilarious to see in a car from 2019. Also, here you get 2 analog gauges. You get a little screen that displays all the critical information you need. You can adjust what's in the screen. You can see your run time, your miles per gallon, your tire pressure. There's a lot of different info you get from this. And you also get radar cruise control, which is pretty nice thanks to the eyesight system. It's not the most perfect system, but it does well. And a bonus, you get a manual handbrake. Pretty cool. Reason number 2 why I love my Subaru Crosstrek. Let's start with the styling. On the front of the car, I really like how this car looks from the front. It's a nice looking car that it's not trying to be too aggressive. It's not ridiculously covered in plastic like some of the newer Crosstrek Wilderness models are. And as a result, I think it still looks very sharp and has aged really well. I find it looks better than the newer generation. And it's just a very nice looking car. Let's go to the rear. All right, taking a look at the rear styling of the Subaru Crosstrek 2nd generation. I always really liked how this car looked from the rear styling, and I honestly prefer it to the front styling of this car. I think it's just a very nice looking setup back here that's not trying to be aggressive like newer generations. It's very simple looking and allows all the functionality and practicality that you need. You also get these 2, now here's where I will get into a nitpick. You got 2 of these big red reflectors right here, and it's annoying because to me they're just far too large for this car, and as a result it kind of gives it a goofy appearance. The 1st generation had a very simple strip right here, which made it nice, and it just was a very good looking setup compared to how these look. Now, getting into the overall styling of this car and its proportions, I think it's a really well-proportioned car. It reminds me a lot of the wagons they had from the 70s that were just very tiny, but you could get a lot out of the space they had inside them. This is cool because as it is just a Subaru Impreza hatchback that they put a lift on. And then I went a step forward and put another lift on. But overall, just a really, really nice looking car. And getting onto the wheels, I really like the wheels that came on this. There was another trim of this car you could get that had different rims on it. And in my opinion, they were just very ugly. I'll include a picture for demonstration's sake, but these were far better looking and the better option of the two. Number 3 on items I like about my Subaru Crosstrek. Number 3 for me will be the Boxer 4-cylinder this car includes. Please excuse the dirty engine bay. This is a daily driver and it clearly reflects so. Now I really do like this engine. Its designation is the FB20D Boxer 4-cylinder. This is a 2-liter and it makes about 152 horsepower. This is by no means a speed demon, as it is really, really slow in fact, but it gets you to where you need to go, and in a daily driver, I appreciate that it just runs. Now, these cars, everyone knows Subaru have head gasket issues, but the FB20D claims to have solved these, and in my 5 years of ownership, this engine has never given me any issues. It's also just a really cool sounding engine. I appreciate in a world of 4 cylinders that the Boxer stands out and tries to be a little bit unique. It has a cool sound, and I'll include a clip of that here. All right, number 4 on items I like about my Subaru Crosstrek. Number 4 for me would be the overall versatility of this car. I've heard someone describe before that this car, really, you can make what you want out of it. And what I mean by that is, if you want to put a lift on it, it's remarkably simple to do so, as I've done here. If you want to put bigger tires on it, you can. It really does work. You have a lot of functionality to include on the top. You can put a bike rack on the top. You can put a camping tent on the top. You can do a lot of things to this car if you wanted to. And I appreciate that this car is a good template for making what you want out of it. And I feel like a lot of cars, it's harder to do that. And that is an area where the Subaru Crosstrek really stands out. Number 5 on items I like about my Subaru Crosstrek. For me, number 5 would be the symmetrical all-wheel drive system this car includes. Now, if you know anything about Subaru, you know that the all-wheel drive system they include on these cars is really good in the industry. And while competitors have gotten better all-wheel drive systems, I do believe Subaru, that is still their core competency with these vehicles. Now, getting a little bit into that, I've taken this car on some pretty crazy adventures before, and it has gone and performed remarkably well for a car of this size and not having a traditional four-wheel drive system. Now, this car will still be beat out by a traditional four-wheel drive system, but in terms of what you need for this car and the system it offers, it is remarkably well, especially when you pair it with some more all-terrain tires. It is a great system and really is one of the key features that I've enjoyed about this car. It's nice and refreshing to have, especially when you find yourself in inclement conditions, or if you just want to take it on a nice adventure and go off-road for a little bit. Now, this is no rock crawler by any means, but it is a great system that I really appreciate. My final thoughts on the Subaru Crosstrek. In terms of the good of this car, this is just a really well-designed car. In a world of crossovers, it is refreshing to see a car that has a unique engine. It's a really fun car, and to me, it's always had a fun personality. It's a just good car. It has a lot of versatility, and it is by no means perfect. And I will make a video on this car about the things I dislike. You probably can make a few assumptions, but on terms of items that I do like, I think this is a car that will age really well in both its styling, its practicality, the technology it offers. It is refreshing to see a car in the late 2010s and early 2020s that had very simple technology in it. And I think as cars become more and more technical, for good or for worse, we will come to appreciate cars like this that are just trying to be a car. And I think that's where I really want to end off with this car is the Subaru Crosstrek is not trying to be overly aggressive. It's just trying to be a car that gets you from A to B and have a little bit of fun while you're doing it. Overall, I'm very grateful to own this car and excited to see where it takes me in the future. A video soon will be coming about what I dislike about this car. Thank you all for watching. Have a great one. Bye.